Previously, Kitaro discovered that Aoi Hazuki wasn't just an average young school girl, but a girl who was obsessed with the undead and has a tragic family incident. Now back to the present, as Kitaro walks down the street thinking about his past experience and his hatred for the supernatural. He arrives at Hazuki's house where Aoi answers the door, but from the previous night that happened, Kitaro slowly begins to fear her just a little bit more. Kitaro begins his tutor session with Aoi as Aiko serves them cocoa. Aoi asks him to come to more haunted places with her, slowly thinking to himself that he would rather die than go on another haunted trip. But he tells her that he has plans for the day. Just then, Aiko asks him if he is getting exorcismed at the temple, and one thing leads to another, and let's just say Kitaro has some bad luck. As they begin their trip, Kitaro begins to notice that Aiko always seems to take Aoi's side, remembering the scary face Aiko put on yesterday. Aoi asks him if he has to get exorcismed often. Kitaro tells her yes, as he explains to her when he was young he gotten cursed. Aiko intervenes, telling her that the shrine they are actually heading to is ran by Kitaro's crazy grandmother, sparking her interest as they stop for food and soon arrive at the shrine. However, soon after arriving, Kitaro's grandmother comes splashing him with a bucket of water, calling him an idiot, asking him what type of abhorrent creature did he bring with him, referring to the little girl Aoi. She walks over to her, claiming that she was the one who destroyed the Jizo statues and now has 5 different Jizos haunting her. However, this is wrong. Aoi corrects her, saying it was actually 7 statues she destroyed. Kitaro explains that his grandmother is more spiritually sensitive than he is, but from the sounds of things, Aoi can see even more things than the both of them. Kitaro's grandma attempts to shoo Aoi away, asking him why is he defending this dangerous girl. Kitaro thinks to himself that she isn't technically wrong, that Aoi is dangerous and a handful, but states that his job is to tutor her, so he has to keep an eye out for her and wants to work on his people skills. Grandma decides to leave it at that, but warns Aoi if she messes with him in any way she will pay the price. Grandma tells him that they are ready for his exorcism, and Aoi tells him good job for getting his grandma to settle down.
Good job, Keitaro.
Kitaro asks Aoi if she really did break those Jizo statues and why. Aoi explains to him that they were guarding nasty spirits and one of them might have been the one who took her mother away. Kitaro is shocked to hear that Aiko's theory of Aoi going to haunted places to avenge her mother was actually true and decides to leave it at that. Kitaro soon begins his exorcism as he begins to rethink about his past and one of the reasons he was able to live a normal life again. This was thanks to his grandma doing an exorcism on him, causing him to avoid dragging other people into supernatural mishaps. Without his grandma's help, he might have stayed a shut-in for the rest of his life, similar to yourself. As they begin, Aoi gets up attempting to watch the exorcism. However, Aiko manages to distract her by showing a picture of what Kitaro hides under his glove. Upon looking at his hand, thinking it's hair on it, Aiko explains that they are actually his nerves and they slowly grow longer and get more painful over time. So in the exorcism, they attempt to numb the hand and cut away the nerves while chanting Shinto prayers. But for some odd reason, something doesn't feel right to Aoi. As they finish their exorcism, Aoi and Aiko bring them snacks, but Aoi notices the overwhelming presence that was in Kitaro's hand is much smaller compared to before. Aoi tells them that they need to rest since they are both drained from the exorcism. Kitaro decides to head to the bathroom. This is when Aoi and Aiko notice Kitaro's veins sitting on the shrine. While they glance at it, Grandma tells them to be careful or they'll get cursed. However, Aoi, being the girl she is, asks her if she can take a couple with her. She begins to realize that Aoi really likes creepy stuff and decides to tell her an old story about their shrine that holds memorial services for dolls. She explains to Aiko and Aoi that her shrine is a place people bring cursed dolls so they can exorcism them. However, the ones that are too dangerous are locked away in the basement of the shrine sanctuary, and nobody is allowed down there. Meanwhile, as Kitaro finishes using the bathroom, he picks up a plushie he found on the floor, suddenly feeling strange, and decides to keep it to himself. Grandma continues telling them that whoever goes into the basement are trapped in the sanctuary, and is possessed by the dolls, sparking Aoi's interest even more. However, as Aoi glances over, she notices Kitaro walking around with a strange doll, and asks Grandma, what do those dolls look like? She replies that they're all Japanese dolls with long hair, and the most dangerous one wears a red flower patterned kimono. Aoi gets up telling Aiko and Grandma that Kitaro is currently possessed by those dolls due to his weakened state. Meanwhile, Kitaro is brought down to the basement where a bunch of dolls are surrounding him. As Kitaro regains consciousness, he is aware of his situation, noticing the doll's hair is suddenly going into his body, attempting to possess him. His life begins to flash before his eyes as he thinks back to when his grandmother told him to never go into the basement. As Kitaro slowly starts to lose consciousness once again, Aoi comes to his rescue in a menacing stance, slicing the doll's head clean off.
人間に手を出しちゃダメ。
She turns to the dolls, telling them if they mess with humans ever again, their heads will be hers. Grandmother and Aiko show up moments after, happy that Kitaro is okay. Meanwhile, Grandmother is surprised that this little girl could scare the most dangerous dolls in just one stare. As Kitaro is glad he made it out alive, he realizes that the only reason he is alive is thanks to this little girl, and surprisingly this time it wasn't her fault, since Kitaro let his guard down and got himself into this mess, causing Aoi to put herself into harm's way to save him. Kitaro begins to think back to when his grandma asked him, "Why are you defending this dangerous little brat?" However, at this time, he couldn't give her a clear answer, but now he knows what he should have said about Aoi-chan. As Aiko, Aoi, and Kitaro are about to make their way back home, they say their goodbyes to Grandma, as she tells them to come visit once again, although she would prefer if they didn't bring the dangerous creepy girl next time.
また来るね。
あんたは二度と来るんじゃないよ。
Kitaro brings up the conversation about the question she asked him earlier, saying he wasn't sure what to say earlier, but now he does. Kitaro tells her that Aoi is a good child, although she does tend to get carried away at times. He wants to practice his people skills and meet Aoi on her level. Grandma smiles as she can see her little boy is making a dramatic change compared to his previous days, then tells him to buy her a souvenir and pray to it so the Jizo that is hanging over her will calm down. She also tells Kitaro that his ability to sense spirits can protect him and his friends, depending on how he looks at it. It could be viewed as not a curse nor something to be ashamed of. As they depart from Grandma, they stop at the convenience store to buy Aoi a souvenir and head back home. Aoi tells Kitaro that she wants to find a place to put her souvenir, and she will also show him the collection she has in her room.
なぜ僕は気づかなかったのだろうか。
However, the moment her door opened, he regretted his decision, saying he wanted to be on the same level as her. The overwhelming presence he never felt or noticed before until that door was opened. Aoi tells him that they are the worst of the worst as she places the same doll that attempted to possess Kitaro on the table. Kitaro attempts to tell her that it is too dangerous for her to keep that haunted doll in here. However, Aoi states that when spirits possess something they conform to its physical state. As she said this, Kitaro glimpses over to the doll and notices that Aoi reattached the doll's head with the nerves his grandma cut off his hand. She shows Kitaro the power that his nerves hold when it comes to hurting spirits.
ほら。
Kitaro realizes that the closer he gets to Aoi, the further he gets from living a normal life. As he backs away, Aiko appears, accidentally scaring him. Kitaro attempts to tell her that Aoi's room is too dangerous and they need to get away as soon as possible. However, Aiko tells him to calm down because at first it freaked her out also, but nothing strange or creepy has ever happened in the house, saying that she just likes to collect plushies.
わからないんだ。英子には霊感がないから。
Kitaro looks at her in fear as she doesn't get what's truly happening here. As Aiko cannot sense spirits like the both of them, she doesn't know that this little girl is actually collecting spirits, and not any spirits, the worst spirits to exist. As Aoi comes out of the room, Kitaro looks back in fear, while Aoi tells him that nothing bad will ever happen to the Hazukis, nor will nothing bad happen to him. Kitaro looks at her in fear as she looks at him in a coldly manner, asking him for his nails.
爪。ちょうだい。
The plushies begin to shake from Aoi's presence. As she grips the bloody kimono doll with her bare hand, she asks for Kitaro's nail once again. Kitaro begins to wonder what is wrong with this little girl. Kitaro took his leave for the night with no questions asked, stating if he had a choice he'd prefer to never come back to that house, but he wants to make sure that Aiko is okay since he owes her his life.
Good job, 慶太郎。
When Kitaro rings the doorbell, Aiko answers with a happy smile, but Kitaro is surprised that everything is fine in the house after last night. Aiko repeats herself, saying that Aoi moved into her house a year ago and everything has been perfectly normal, and there's nothing to worry about. Kitaro thinks to himself, even if that is true, there's got to be something else going on here. While he was thinking, Aoi suddenly appears trying to get a clip of his fingernails, although he quickly backs away, telling her there's no way that's happening.
爪ちょうだい。ちょうだい。
Causing Aoi to become more aggressive and ask him for his nails even while studying. Aiko can see that Kitaro is getting more frightened. and suggests that they go somewhere haunted, fun.
今心霊スポットって言いかけなかった？
She whispers to Aoi and she instantly agrees. That's when Kitaro knew that it was no way this trip was gonna be fun. The two girls attempt to push Kitaro into the car. As the two girls strap their seatbelts, he decides to take his leave and head home.
帰る。
Aoi mutters under her breath, calling Kitaro a scaredy cat. He tells Aoi that she is right and why the heck would he want to go with her, screaming that it's scary and dangerous, stating that he already knows the dumb games of playing with the supernatural, which resulted in him being cursed for life and even managed to drag his best friend into it. Aoi asks him if his curse is a problem. Kitaro replies that he would get rid of it if he could, muttering to himself he doesn't even understand why Aiko wants to go. Aoi tells Aiko to gas it, stating that they'll go on their own. Aiko tells her that she feels bad that they left him, but Aoi tells her that he thought Kitaro liked supernatural stuff like her because he could get rid of the curse on his hand if he really wanted to, but thought he was keeping it as a good luck charm or something. Aiko surprisingly looks at her, asking if there was a way to get rid of the curse. Aoi is more surprised that Kitaro didn't know he could lift the curse as she begins to look at Aiko's hand. Aoi tells her she may know a place where they can go to lift Kitaro's curse, stating that Kitaro isn't just a tutor to her anymore, as they set off to the destination. Meanwhile, Kitaro is maintaining his stamina since, according to his grandmother, a healthy body keeps the spirits away. Although he can't exactly focus thinking about the dangers the two girls are going into, he decides to stop at the store called Home Goods to buy Aoi something for their next session. Aoi tells Aiko the place they're going is an abandoned temple in the western city that is dedicated to babies who died before they were born. On the site, there are hundreds of Jizo statues for the children, rumored to be haunted by the unborn, and the goddess of children, who seek revenge for them. She states that it's been on her radar for a while, but she forgot about it until she saw it in Aiko's magazine. As Aoi glances at the car window, she notices a couple of spirits lingering in the forest. Upon arrival, Aoi tells Aiko to stay in the car and don't come out no matter what, and if she doesn't come back in the next hour, call someone for help. As she gets out of the car, Aoi can feel the bad energy from outside, and can only imagine it being 3 times worse inside the gates. She begins walking into the shrine, where she stumbles across hundreds of Jizo statues and the Kishimagen statue, also nicknamed the evil goddess who devoured children. However, when she lost one of her own children, she learned how it felt to lose a child, and decided to protect them instead of devouring them. However, due to this change, she is always seen surrounded by the souls of the unborn, and their inability to rest in peace has poisoned her goodwill, resulting in her turning into a vengeance goddess with tons of minions. Although Aoi wasn't prepared for this, she decides not to back down in order to make Kitaro's life easier by taking down a goddess. Before Aoi could do any attacks, her leg is caught in an umbilical cord, attempting to eliminate her with a falling Jizo statue. Meanwhile, Aiko is getting nervous because it has been over an hour since Aoi said she'll be back. Aiko decides to do what she was told and gets help. Shifting back to Aoi, she survived the falling statue due to her quick thinking, putting a bar in between the statue. However, this still resulted in a sprained ankle. Aoi takes another look at the umbilical cord to find out it was actually a vine, and she was illusioned into thinking it was a cord. She decides to take out her paper dolls, and by using a piece of her hair it serves as a proxy. Aoi explains that a paper doll is similar to a video game that shows how many lives you have and can also act as a decoy.
ちょうどよかった。
Meanwhile, Kitaro is at the store smelling pens, thinking if Aoi-chan will like them. As Aiko comes running over to him, Kitaro asks her what's wrong and how does she know where he was, considering he randomly went out for a run. But Aiko tells him that doesn't matter right now and Aoi needs help. Thinking it was just another one of their games, he doubts her, asking weren't you supposed to be going somewhere haunted? Aiko tells him that she went by herself and hasn't come back yet, but he responds that Aiko is at fault since she was supposed to be with her and how'd she let that happen. However, Kitaro quickly changes his mind when hearing that Aoi only went to the shrine to lift the curse that he has been suffering from. As Aoi continues to run from the goddess with a sprained ankle, she gets caught, falling onto the ground. However, with her smart thinking skills, she captured one of her minions and threatened to hurt it if she came any closer. Thankfully, this worked out as Aoi took this time to get away and make decoys to catch a breather back at the shrine. Sadly though, they quickly caught up to her, and just when she thought she was a goner, the spirits suddenly shifted to another direction, paying no attention to her. Just then, Kitaro arrives at the shrine, running up the stairs knowing that Aoi is probably in the creepiest part of the place. As he gets closer to the destination, he feels the bad energy from within the shrine, but continues to pursue in order to save her. She hears Kitaro's voice screaming out for her, and let's just say Kitaro has a few friends behind him as well.
おお、さすが。
He instantly notices Ioe's sprained ankle and decides to use himself as bait, coming up with a plan which is circling around the building, attempt to grab her and dip. Who could have guessed that Grandma's words would be used to save that same scary girl she dislikes, since she was the one who told him to build up his stamina. Ioe pulls out a hammer and, not wanting to be shown up, she smashes part of the statue and captures it. As Kitaro comes around the corner, he grabs Ioe's hand and jumps into the car to make their escape. Although they made it out safe and sound, Kitaro's pockets sure didn't, as he had to pay for not only Ioe's medical bill, but also for the car damage they took while escaping, which equals up to 39,500 yen, however much that is in your currency. That's still probably cheaper than a band-aid at the hospital in the US. Anyways, due to her sprained ankle, Kitaro decides to carry her home as he thanks her for going into the shrine to try and lift his curse. While on his back, she begins thinking of her father, and if back then if she could have just endured the pain, then maybe she might have been able to save her mother. Kitaro tells her that he doesn't understand why she'll go through all this trouble though. She tells him that friends are like family to her, and if something is bothering them, she has a habit of wanting to help them. Kitaro begins to feel that he can be on her level once again, becoming less scared of her. And Ioe asks him if he could come to see her room once again, asking him to trust her. Kitaro agrees as Ioe explains to him what a paper doll is, stating that she only asked for a piece of his fingernail to make a physical body to protect him. As she opens the door, some of the plushies are busted up on the floor while Ioe explains the reason behind that. She explains to him that every piece of the plushie has a piece of her inside them, and if anything hurts her, they will all take damage as well. And even if some spirits decided to sacrifice themselves to harm her, the other spirits would stop them to protect themselves. She states that she has done this for everyone in the Hazuki family, and that's why they're all safe from danger. Kitaro can't believe that this little girl comes up with this all on her own. But he also realizes that Ioe only asked for his fingernail to protect him from the beginning, and just misunderstood her. She tells him that she only shows the people she trusts her collection to prove she will always be their friend. Ioe decides to show Kitaro what happens to the spirits that try to cause harm to her, since the goddess from earlier attempted to harm Ioe earlier, resulting in some of her spirits being harmed instead. The plushies that endured it has a bone to pick with her. As she tosses the finger onto the ground, Kitaro can feel the overwhelming presence of all the spirits attacking that one finger. After tormenting the finger, she asks if it wants a nail so they won't attack it anymore. The ghost writes in blood saying to give it, but Ioe tells it to not stain the carpet and beg for protection. Kitaro can't believe his eyes as she is single-handedly making a ghost obey her command out of fear.
床を汚すな。
He asks her why exactly are you collecting all these spirits, as she states that the ghost that took her mother away was really powerful and she'll need trained spirits in order to go against it. As her enemy is a monster who won't listen to reason, her collection will serve to empower her, even if she wishes them to do an evil or good deed at her command. She states that due to her injury, she had to give up on capturing it for today. However, she will continue once her ankle gets better. Kitaro's heart begins to sink, as Ioe makes it sound like she could make one spirit harm the other. Ioe tells him that's exactly how it works, explaining that's why she went to capture the goddess, to get her to harm the spirit that curses him. Kitaro is a little relieved to hear that it's a way to get his curse lifted, after always hearing it's no cure for the type of curse he has. Not only does he have a little hope for himself, but also for the friend that was cursed alongside him, which he reveals as being Aiko. Ioe tells him although they want different things, they both need the same solution, and they should go spirit hunting together to find a way to lift his curse. This concludes the anime recap for Dark Gathering. Make sure you push that subscribe button and turn on notifies, as I will continue with this series every 2 episodes. Let me know your thoughts and I'm out.
また来るね。
あんたは二度と来るんじゃないよ。